So necessary assumption questions, like when looking for the right answer choice, like I always have to bridge the assumption between the two, which I know, but what is like a different way? Like if I do the negation test and it still doesn't make sense to me, like I still don't see the negation, like what am I looking at wrong, like from my perspective? Like if I'm just like, okay, I've negated it, but I still don't, I'm not confident in that answer.
Well, negation is really just a tool to ask yourself if this needs to be true, if the argument requires it.
Okay.
If it weren't true, what would happen? Would it not being true destroy the argument? If so, that's your answer. If negating it does not destroy the argument and the argument could still work, then it's not required.
Okay.
That's really it. But I think a lot of times folks get wrapped up in the technicality of what negation could look like.
Okay. And then with necessary assumption of questions, is it okay for you to kind of like bring outside what's where I'm like just kind of like if it's not in the stimulus, it's kind of like a new information, would that be like prevalent in necessary assumptions?
Well, necessary assumptions don't allow new information. So they don't allow something to be true that was not already required by the stimulus.
Okay.
They might occasionally use a new term or a new idea, a new concept, a new word. That's fine. But you have to ask yourself logically, does the stimulus require that?
Okay.
Is that clicking for you? Is that making sense? I'm happy to try to explain another way.
Yeah, it is. Because I know when I like with weekend questions, sometimes it's okay for new information to come in and destroy the whole argument.
Yeah.
Which like I always remember, like anytime I'm doing weekend questions, I'm always thinking about anti-conclusion, like something that completely destroys the argument. So like looking at it from the necessary assumption, like new information would not necessarily be needed for that answer choice to be correct because it's not in the stimulus, like you said.
Right. So strength question types like strengthen and weaken, they open the door to all kinds of new information. They're saying which one of the following, if true, would strengthen or weaken and so on. For necessary assumption, they are not opening the door to new information. Let me be clear about that. They're not saying if something's true. What they are saying is, what does the argument require? The argument assumes that, or the argument depends upon that. Now, the argument could depend upon something being true that was not explicitly stated in the stimulus, but it is still required by the stimulus.
Okay.
Things can be required that are not explicitly stated. After all, an assumption is an implicit premise. So it's not directly stated out loud, but it needs to be true for the argument to work. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.